Dreams from Meher Baba on the Spiritual Panorama by Meher Baba. An Avatar Meher Baba Trust ebook, June 2011. Copyright 1958 by Sufism Reoriented Inc., USA. Chapter 1. The Whim from the Beyond. Through the ages, the human mind has been profoundly restless in its search for final explanations about first things. The history of these endeavors, to grasp first things through intellect, is a tale of recurrent failures. The redeeming feature of these great efforts is that instead of being disheartened by the confessed failures of past thinkers, others are inspired to make fresh attempts. All these philosophical explanations are creations of the mind that has never succeeded in passing beyond itself. Thus, they are confessed, though inspiring, failures. Nonetheless, each such failure is a partial contribution to knowledge of the beyond. Only those who have gone beyond the mind know the truth in its reality. If they sometimes explain what they know, which they rarely do, those explanations, also being in words, are limited, but those words serve to illumine the mind. They do not fill it with novel ideas. The Unitarian beyond is an indivisible and indescribable infinity. It seeks to know itself. It is of no use to ask why it does so. To attempt to give a reason for this is to be involved in further questions and thus to start an unending chain of reasons for reasons these reasons, and so on ad infinitum. The plain truth about this initial urge to know itself is best called a whim, or lahar. A whim is not a whim if it can be explained or rationalized. And just as no one may usefully ask why it arises, no one may ask when it arises. When implies a time series with past, present, and future. All these are absent in the eternal beyond. So let us call this initial urge to know a whim. You may call this an explanation if you like, or you may call it an affirmation of its inherent inexplicability. The initial whim is completely independent of reason, intellect, or imagination, all of which are byproducts of this whim. Reason, intellect, and imagination depend upon the initial whim and not vice versa. Because the whim is not dependent upon reason, intellect, or imagination, it can neither be understood nor interpreted in terms of any of these facilities of the limited mind. The first whim to know instantaneously implies a duality, an apparent differentiation, not amounting to a breakup, into two separate aspects, both of which are infinite as aspects of the infinite. The first aspect is that of the infinite consciousness, and the second aspect is that of the infinite unconsciousness. The duality strives to overcome itself and to restore the apparent lost unity. The infinite unconsciousness tries to unite with the infinite consciousness. Both aspects are precipitated by the whim. This whim of the infinite is in a way comparable to an infinite question, calling forth an infinite answer. With the infinite question, there arises also the infinite answer. The infinite question is infinite unconsciousness. The infinite answer is infinite consciousness. But the infinite question and the infinite answer do not simply annul each other and relapse into the original unity of the beyond. The two aspects have now descended into the primal duality, which can resolve itself only by fulfilling the entire game of duality and not by any shortcut. The infinite unconsciousness cannot overlap on infinite consciousness. Such coalescence is impossible. To reach out towards infinite consciousness, the infinite unconsciousness first has to fathom its own depths. It must experience itself first as infinitely finite and gradually evolve into limited and limiting consciousness. With the evolution of the limited and limiting consciousness, there is also the evolution of the illusion which limits this limiting consciousness. The two processes keep pace with each other. When the infinite unconsciousness tries to reach out to the infinite consciousness, the process is not instantaneous because of the infinite disparity between the two. The process takes an indefinitely long time, and eternity gets seemingly broken into the unending past, the transient present, and the uncertain future. Instead of embracing the infinite consciousness in one timeless act, the infinite unconsciousness reaches out towards it through a long, drawn out temporal process of evolution, with all of its innumerable steps. It first attempts to fathom its own depths, then, by backwards treads, it seeks and ultimately finds the infinite consciousness through innumberless steps, thus fulfilling the whim from the beyond.